Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are asking a very important question. Will you snail? Because we played Will You Snail today, and it's this tough indie platformer, kind of a masocore platformer with maybe something else going on under the hood. Who's to say? So we will discuss this game and all that is encompassed within it. And joining me, as always, to discuss this game, Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hello, everybody. I should have gotten a fun fact about snails. Did not occur to me until just this exact moment, so I didn't do that.
Okay.
Instead, I talked about whales, the giant snails of the ocean.
Not to be confused with the actual giant snails in the ocean.
No, those are lame, and I hate them. Don't even talk to me about them. But whales. So whale songs travel super, super far. And one reason they do this is because whales make their calls in something called the deep sound channel, also known as the sound fixing and ranging channel, or the SOFAR channel. So in the 1940s, Cold War scientists used this for submarine warfare. They could listen in the channel to subs that were thousands of miles away. But the way it basically works is, if you're in a specific depth in the ocean, the sound sort of petering out at the top or smashing into the bottom. Instead, it just continues to travel. So songs that only travel 250K at the surface can go more than 6,000K in this SOFAR channel. So that's basically from Virginia to the coast of Ireland.
Wow. So that's just like, so by going deep enough in the ocean, you can cast your songs that far?
Basically, but you can't go too deep either, because then they'll hit the bottom.
Okay, so there's this middle range where communication is perfect, and too high, too low, you end up with just localized sound.
Yeah,
Wild.
you don't make any whale friends, because they all think you're lame.
That's fair, I am lame. Also joining us today to discuss Will You Snail is M. Palladino. Hello, M.
Hello. I'm bad at platformers. I'm bad at most games, so having a game where the game tells you you're bad is great for my ego.
You know, I felt like this was a year of torture game and you didn't even pick it. We've started torturing ourselves, and really, we have you to thank for that.
We're gonna cut that out this year.
Yay! You got the game of the year you wanted, so we're all safe.
Well, yes, but I'm going to stop torturing you soon.
Yay!
Not with this next game, but
not yet,
soon.
but soon. Yeah, so before we start talking about Will You Snail, our normal housekeeping, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, and we are still imploring our listeners, if you're in a position to do so, please do donate to the National Network of Abortion Funds. Folks in the U.S. still are having hard times getting access to reproductive health care that they need. So if you're in a position to do so, please do donate. With joining the Patreon that I mentioned earlier, you get access to our Discord, where you can talk with creators of the show and some of the other folks in the community. You could suggest us games to play. We are a scant few patrons away from having to play Sonic 06, which I should mention that every show. Like, we only need a few more people joining the Patreon to make us play one of the most discussed games ever made. It is definitely a game of note. How you want to interpret that is up to you. It is one of the few games that seems to maybe push Eternal Sonata in terms of absurdity. So if you want to make us play that, the offer's still good. I believe that the Off the Deep End folks are still taking patron suggestions for Off the Deep End's games to play. So go ahead, get in that Discord, and who knows, maybe some new Patreon exclusive stuff's going to be coming down the line. Who's to say? But what you definitely get access to and get to shape if you join the Discord by joining the Patreon is the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop, 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 boop. This week on the Discord, I added a new channel, seeing that we had a large amount of games that we were discussing for 2023. I decided to make a channel called The Shortlist, which is where we can discuss games that we would like to play on the show. We do this basically everywhere in the Discord, but now we have an actual list of them. So you can see what we're thinking about playing if you're joining the Discord.
What about game adjacent movies? I'm very excited for Mario.
Yeah, are you? I'm not.
I can't tell you how much I love Chris Pratt's
I'm
Italian American heritage.
Gino. I think we have to find a new third co-host.
Yeah. Do you remember? Well, I don't remember. Is worst character in the part of Game of the Year that people already have listened? Well, by the time this comes out, they will have heard all of Game of the Year, which means our stance on Dom Pagnotti. And
should also have his own film franchise.
Yes. Chris Pratt working on his Italian accent exclusively by going to Italian restaurants and imagining what he thinks the chefs sound like.
It's probably not how he does it, but I'll believe it.
Yeah. So we do have the short list. We will probably have some more non-game stuff. So Pete, you're not wrong to think that the Mario movie might come up if that movie ever releases. We still haven't watched the Sonic movies though. Or Sonic.
I watched Sonic movies.
Oh yeah, I forgot there were Sonic movies.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Sonic 2. I watched the first Sonic movie. It's fine.
Because it starts off and I thought it was going to be like bad. And it was kind of okay by the end of it.
Does Chip and Dale count as a video game movie?
I don't think
I used to love that video game.
Yeah, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, the movie, has it features Sonic in it. But specifically the Sonic...
Does it really?
Ugly Sonic is his name. It is Sonic, the Sonic from before they redid the Sonic movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the one with the horrible human teeth and the very realistic looking features.
And who is he played by?
He's played by the dude who does...
Chris Pratt?
No. The guy who does I Think You Should Leave.
Oh, really?
What's his name?
I want to say Tony Robbins, and I know that's wrong. I know it's not Tim Robbins either.
That's not Tony Robbins.
That's a different person too. But I think it's a Robinson.
Yeah, Tim Robinson.
Oh, it is Tim Robinson.
You were close.
Okay. Tim Robbins, I think, is
Knuckles.
the dude from not Dante's Inferno. Dang it, that movie that inspired Silent Hill. It's slipping my brain right now. We did a whole show on it.
Silent Hill was inspired by Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder. I was thinking Dante's Inferno. Wrong thing. But yeah, Jacob's Ladder is Tim Robbins is the lead actor in that.
Knuckles is in the second Sonic movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's voiced by Idris Elba.
Really?
Yes. Because they had to make it sexy.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
It
one
works.
day.
It's fine.
One day we'll talk about it. Probably, if I had to guess.
Follow
anything
us
else
on
going
the Discord so you can see when we talk about these movies.
Yeah, we had folks have gotten back. So Final Fantasy XI has become free, I think, to buy. I think they still charge you the monthly fee, but there's some amount of FF11 that is now free, and some folks have gone back in.
We are not going back in.
I'm not.
Right?
I'm not.
Okay.
But someone could. There's been a lot of FF11 content.
I think free is still too expensive for me to get involved in the Final Fantasy franchise.
That's fair. And we also the food channel.
Did not like it. The food channel, as always, very cursed.
We had a new patron or a new person in the Discord, and I feel it is my place to say you need to eat mushrooms. You need to try mushrooms.
I need to eat mushrooms?
Yeah, there was a whole discussion in the Discord about mushrooms. Which mushrooms
No.
types have you tried? Which varietals?
I don't know what mushrooms I have had.
Varietal.
There's a lot of types of mushrooms. It's like saying I don't like vegetables. Like there's a lot.
I had the mushrooms that make you hallucinate. I had
Notoriously untasty.
yes, not very good. Wouldn't recommend eating them. I don't know. It's one of those things that I, as a child, had some mushrooms I was not a fan of, and so I do not eat mushrooms.
That's what I figured. So as a fellow New York Italian, I growing up basically had the mushrooms that came on pizza, and then maybe like some cremini mushrooms. But there's a whole wide world. As a vegetarian, there's a whole wide world of mushrooms, and you should try some of them. Some oyster maybe. Oyster mushrooms are nice. They're very low stakes. They are very meaty. They are a good meat substitute in a lot of sauté stuff. You could get some lion's mane. That's almost like a tofu almost. It takes up a lot of flavors. You can get some royal trumpet. It's great for sautéing. They're all different.
Here's my thing with mushrooms. Are they squishy? Do you bite into them and then it's like just squish? I'm not gonna like it if it's squishy.
I would say oyster mushrooms are chewy in the way that meat is chewy.
Chewy. I don't know if that's better or worse.
I mean, you eat meat. Meat's chewy. Why is
Yeah,
that not a
but-
texture problem?
It's not like chewy.
Because the good
No.
meat is. Your filet mignons and your steaks, those are chewy.
All right, you're gonna set me up for a food review in the style of ZP.
It's a good protein. It's a good protein.
What
Can you
mushrooms?
bonk
would you have
yourself
me
on the head
eat?
with mushrooms too?
I mean, you can. I don't think it tells you anything about the cacao content.
I bonked my head and I found out there's no cacao in this mushroom.
It's a low quality mushroom. There's no cacao.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would recommend if you're not a mushroom person, you could start small. Just oyster mushrooms, they are the least offensive taste wise and texture wise that I've found. Like I've put oyster mushrooms in a lot of things and people don't remark on it like, what is this? They're like, oh, this is a nice meaty thing. What is it? And then I go, it's an oyster mushroom. And they go, oh, I thought it was meat. So like just some oyster mushrooms sauteed with garlic and oil and a little salt and pepper. It's good. Just make sure you put like a lid on there so it doesn't dry out. That's the only thing. But yeah, the Food Channel had a long discussion about you not eating mushrooms.
Why are they discussing me not eating mushrooms when we should be discussing the crimes that ZP has committed about pizza?
Because we're trying to avoid talking about him putting fucking Okay, fine. We'll say it. Pete, you're a neutral party in this. You didn't read it in real time.
Sure.
How do you feel about taking pico de gallo, cooking it down, and using it as tomato
just
sauce?
stop there. Why? That's not a thing. You can't just do that and act like that's a thing people do. How do you cook down I'm against it, obviously.
Chris Zombie Pie Redacted in the Food Channel on the 6th, 2 days ago, said, salsa marinara is when I take pico de gallo, cook it down, add tomato paste, and
Or
then serve
ketchup.
it, and then, no, hold on, we're not there yet.
Okay.
And then serve it on top of a bed of spaghetti like traditional marinara, but you can use ketchup instead of tomato paste.
Why doesn't he just buy a bottle of ragu then? Like, if this is what he's going to do with his life.
Why any of this?
I don't know. He said, but it's got onions and it's got tomatoes. What else is different? And I think we went, I don't know, the lime,
All of it?
the red
Yeah.
onion instead of the white
Literally
onion,
everything else.
the size of the chunks, the fact that it doesn't have garlic. Like, there's a million things that are wrong with this. Sometimes there's jalapeno. Yeah. So that's what's going on in the Food Channel. Don't go. If you join the Patreon, maybe don't go there.
Or do.
Just know
to
that
tell-
there might be psychic damage.
Yeah, tell ZP what the fuck. We
Yep.
could always use more people to tell ZP what the fuck.
That's true. It's one of our favorite things to do.
Yep.
All right, so that's it. And then my obsession of the week, this week, I don't think I've shouted this out on the show before. Have either of you watched the new show Cook at All Costs?
No.
Haven't even
Oh.
heard of it.
I think you did tell me about this, actually.
I think I might. I don't know if I said. Did I say
Oh,
this on the
mentioned
podcast?
it on
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah, you did mention it now that I recall.
Okay. So if I've
Not
if
an
I've
obsession
already
though.
not as an obsession. Okay, because that show. I think I said it before we recorded Game of the Year. But Cook at All Costs. It's a new Netflix show. The premise is that some home cooks are given blind boxes of ingredients to impress a professional chef with a meal that they make. But the boxes are gated by how much you bid on them. They start with a bank of $25,000. They bid on the first round of boxes that they get. And the boxes are a save box, which is like normal stuff that you would get at a grocery store easily. A surprise box, which is some eclectic food combos. And then a spend box, which is high-end ingredients. So it's kind of like the save box, but everything is nicer. So like I just saw one where like the save box was normal eggs. I think it was a tilapia. No, it wasn't. It was a perch. A perch for fish. Some like spinach, etc. And they were trying to make brunch. The surprise box was an ostrich egg, some sort of fancier, smoked salmon, and then some fancier greens. And then the spend box was lobster and duck eggs and like some fancier green. And so you end up there. People are bidding. There's like additional ingredients that come down the line, and people need to bid on them because my dish just really needs lemons, or my dish just really needs some sort of additional thing. So I need to bid to get spices because my dish is super bland. And then at the end of it, whoever wins goes home with however much money they have saved, however much money is left over in their bank account after the bidding. They get to take that home as their grand prize. So you get people coming in and they're like, I'm not spending on anything. I'm such a good cook. I could turn anything into a good meal. And then some people are like, I'm going to spend all of this because if I don't win, I don't get anything. So I'm just going to get all of the ingredients I could possibly get. And it's an interesting show. It's a lot of thinking on your feet, cooking wise.
Sounds interesting. You know what somebody told me or said to me like a few days ago, never occurred to me before, is that chicken eggs are so popular that we just say eggs and everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yep. And that actually came up in the episode. They were like, so there's duck eggs, ostrich eggs, and eggs.
I would like a normal egg, please.
One average egg. por
Regular
favor.
egg. Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, check it out. Cook at All Costs. It's on Netflix. If you have a Netflix subscription, you have access to it. All right, without further ado, time to discuss Will You Snail? Pete, you picked this game. Explain why.
Why? I mean, that's that's a question that goes back 7 or 8 years, Gino. But I'll give the abbreviated version. So Will You Snail, you play a snail, a digital snail, that's been entrapped in this simulation by a malevolent AI, and you have to platform your way out. That's at least all we know at the beginning. But as Gino said, things get deeper and spookier as they go.
Yes. So the game's central premise, you're a snail, you're trapped as a malevolent AI, and the malevolent AI is actively changing the platforming levels as you are playing. So your snail, you are platforming through, pretty normal platforming levels, but the AI will be predicting where you're going to move and will spawn bullshit in your way to kill you. And
Yes.
as the game goes on, it will. So the difficulty levels are easy, very easy, very, very easy, and very, very, very easy, I believe.
I think the lowest
There's
is impossibly easy,
Yeah.
but same idea.
It's variations on easier.
Yes, it starts out easy. So the AI is a jerk. Not just like malevolent in like it's trying to kill you, like it goes nanny nanny poo poo every time you die, Like, it says shitty things. Its voice is, I think I described it on stream as like someone doing a bad Elon Musk impression.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, like a bad Elon Musk impression put through, a digital sound effect of some kind. But it's just like, haha, you are dead. I have killed you. Ha ha ha.
He also, I will say this for the AI, whoever did the voice over recorded a lot of content because you go a
yes.
long time without hearing anything repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it very much makes fun of you for all the different ways you can die. Haha, you should have jumped. Oh, you jumped. You're dead. Oh, I can't believe that you did that. And it's like just a bunch of snide sort of comments like that. And the more you die, the game will dynamically turn the difficulty down if you're dying too much, and it will dynamically turn the difficulty back up if you are dying less. But you can manually set that. You can also turn off the game adjusting its own difficulty. So, Em, what difficulty did you find you enjoyed the most, and which one did you play the most?
Well, played the most on the lowest difficulty, which is just incredibly easy. I tried to go up, and then eventually I was like, why am I going beyond, the second difficulty level? Because there's no reason to keep going, unless you want to challenge yourself, or you're hunting achievements, which I could not care for. I played it badly enough that even on incredibly easy, I was still messing up a fair bit. So that's where I went to that one and difficulty 2, whatever the term is for
Very,
that
very
one.
easy.
No, it's something else. It's like super easy. I don't know. It doesn't have it on the Will You Snail wiki, which is what I'm trying to look at.
Pete, where did you end up on difficulty?
Yeah, I was basically the same as them. So I let the game pretty much
Oh.
handle things for me.
Mm.
Do you find what it's called?
Yes, it's easy, and then very easy, extremely easy, and infinitely easy.
Infinitely easy, that's it. Yeah, so I bounce between infinitely and extremely, pretty much letting the game make the decisions for me. I'm just bad at platformers, apparently. I tried just regular easy just to see what it was like, and I was like, this is not fun. So I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah,
It's just like spawning
spikes,
traps, spikes, and
bullets,
and creatures that run at you and hit you.
Basketball
and you die.
games that are
Yeah.
hard.
There's no reason to do it on easy. It's just aggressive.
Yeah, so the game, when I was playing it, one of the very first levels basically has you go through a regular platforming challenge. It will decide how difficult the game should be based on how you do on that additional platforming. And the game set itself to easy at first, because that initial platforming challenge is normal platforming. There's not nonsense jumping out at you. It's just, can you hit these jumps? Yes or no? And how fast can you hit those jumps? And so I played on easy for the first level. I think I got the difficulty turned itself down on the very first level, I think, because I died so many times. And this game is I guess the subgenre of platformer would be masocore, if you've heard of that term before. It is kind of epitomized by I Want to Be the Guy. Have you ever played that game? You're familiar with it, yes?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so I Want to Be the Guy is famous for basically having just brutal, unfair platforming that oftentimes breaks its own rules. You step on a block, that block's fine. The next block you step on, it falls away down, so you have to jump away. The next block you step on might go backwards and pull you away from where you're supposed to go. So it looks like it should be a normal platforming challenge, but every block is behaving differently, so you just will die over and over and over again. It just spawns things to kill you that you would never expect, and stuff like that, right? It's supposed to be a challenging experience where the difficulty is the whole appeal. And this game does that. It plays in the same space.
What What was the shooter we played a while ago where it's just stupid hard? It had like weird graphics. You're like in hell shooting demons or something.
Damn. Yeah, let me find it. But I know what game you're talking about. Devil Daggers.
Devil Daggers. Yeah, same basic idea. I mean, completely different genre, like platformer versus shooter. But again, you're going to die fast. You're going to die a lot. That's the whole point.
Before
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah, Devil Daggers is much more of a survival sort of thing, whereas these games, like Devil Daggers is run-based. It's like, how long can you survive? This game is much more like, hey, here's this challenge, and you're not going to get to progress through this story-based platformer unless you do better. And like Mastercore platformers are, it's a subgenre. It's adherents. There are people who like this kind of thing. I found that on easy and on the two highest difficulties, I just had a bad time. Did not enjoy playing it, and the game is actively shitty about it too. It's, constantly making fun of you. It is berating you. But I found once you adjust the one of the things you can do that kind of pisses the AI character off is set your own difficulty. He does not like when you do that.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't like when you spend time in the menu at all.
Yeah. If you sit in the menu for a little bit, it will, like, when you go back to the game, be like, hey, what were you doing in the menu all that time? And I'm like, I had to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
Let me live my life, Squid.
God,
Have we ever
Squid,
given his
come
name?
on.
We didn't
his
say.
name
I love
is
it.
Squid.
Squid sucks. Much like in Rocket Power, Squid sucks.
Do we know why his name is Squid?
No, but the other AI character in the game is named Unicorn, so they seem to all be animal adjacent.
Twee nonsense. Yeah.
Unicorn is because it's one of the... In the meta narrative, it's someone's favorite animal.
Who's?
It was... Well, we're getting into the
meta narrative.
The meta narrative, which we'll discuss more. Unicorn was created by Dallin at his job. She is named after Diana's favorite animal. So, the character Diana.
Is this from the lore page?
This is from the in-game history of Unicorn on
Okay, so it's actually... Yes,
Will You Snail wiki.
Yeah,
because I noticed the wikis sometimes go a little far afield and just start sort of making things up that they like.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a Souls game wiki. This game, there's enough dialogue that you can actually just read what's said about these characters, which is nice. But yeah, the challenge levels, like when you adjust your difficulty up or down, Squid's just like, just decide already. Just pick one and stick with it. What the heck? And I did enjoy just toggling it up and down and making the AI mad. And I think that's, my initial experience with this game was very negative because I did not enjoy the difficulty that it set me on by default. Once I went under the hood, and I also didn't like Squid. Like, his delivery of lines is annoying. His everything he says is deliberately provocative. So once I went into the menu and turned him low on volume, you can also make it so that his face only shows up behind the screen instead of in front in the foreground. So you could put him in the background because he will sometimes show up in the foreground if you don't toggle that, which blocks your view of the platforming. You can also adjust the difficulty down. So once I turned the difficulty down, made him shut up a little bit, and moved him to the background so he wasn't obstructing my field of vision quite as much, I had a much better time with the platforming. And this game, pretty shortly after you start making progress in the platforming, it becomes clear that there's a meta-narrative going on about all of the reason why Squid is there, where you even are, what this platforming is. I found that to be... It's another reason to play the game, right? Like, there's the Mastercore platformer that you can appreciate for itself, but there's also this side story, or the regular narrative that is flowing throughout the game as well. And so that was what gave me more of a reason to play, because I did not like the platforming was fine, but I did not especially enjoy it. Em, how did you find the platforming once you turned the difficulty down?
I mean, in general, the platforming is fine. There are also ways to mitigate the difficulty somewhat. such as you can go into the settings and change the jump height, so you always reach the maximum height, as opposed to doing the Mario thing where it's kind of like how long you hold the button determines how high you jump, and momentum and stuff like that. That was one thing I tried, but it wasn't for me because I liked having a little bit more control of the jumps. The actual navigating and such, fairly easy. And then when you get to actual levels where there are spikes spawning and such, that's when the challenge comes in. And there's a lot of different types of levels. There are like some you have to go do a race, some you play a basketball game, some are
turret defense.
Yeah, defense, tower defense. There's a lot of variety to this game, which is...
There are rhythm games, too.
Yeah, there's
That's another big one we missed.
DDR rhythm game type thing. Sometimes you pick up, like, guns that shoot in a direction, and then that's how you have to solve the puzzle.
It's like Space Invaders, but the gun auto shoots, and you have to platform at the same time.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it, which... most of it I was fine with. It was when there were actually things like coming at me that I failed to account for, or still gets a little difficult even on like the second lowest or lowest setting. And it also goes a lot faster, like as you go higher up on the difficulty. So
yeah, the game speed goes up.
Yep. So and you can also adjust the speed in the settings, so that it's in slow motion, basically, which I didn't do, but probably would be helpful now that I think about it.
Yeah, and they also have that. Pete, how did you think of the game and its difficulty?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't really like platformers that much, which was probably an oversight when I picked this game. So I didn't pick it for the difficulty. I picked it because the story, at least at first blush, seemed interesting. So I found myself a lot happier the lower I let the difficulty get. Like I said, I let the game make some decisions just because I wanted to see sort of where it would take me. But I've never been in this whole camp that like, oh, the more punishing the game is, the more fun it is to play.
Yeah, and I think that the game also, in addition to the mocking and kind of everything that Squid is doing, it also turns the game juice down every time you turn the difficulty down. Like the backgrounds lose color. It becomes more desaturated. Your character, like the game speed, slows down as well. So it becomes less frenetic and there's less pop to the look of the game the lower your difficulty goes, which I understand, but it also then gives you this incentive, right? It's giving you this carrot of this. Doesn't this game look better and feel better when the difficulty's higher? Come on, turn it up, turn it up. So there's this nice tension there. But I think the moment where I freed myself from caring about playing on the highest difficulty was when I started appreciating the game more, because that let me get to more dialogue moments, it let me get to more story beats, and it let me get to more line puzzles.
Fucking the line puzzles.
And what do you think of the line puzzles?
Before we get into that, I actually found it way more freeing when I went into the settings, and there is an option to turn the colors off.
Mm-hmm.
You can just turn the colors off?
Yeah,
there are like 5 or 6 color palettes you can pick from.
Yeah. One of them is just, it makes all the stuff you can land on gray blocks, and everything that is dangerous bright red. And so I played on that for most of the game. I do not mind not having this like neon green whatever. It cycles through colors pretty frequently, and I didn't need all that. It looked good, don't get me wrong, but also it's a lot of like blocks and stuff that is distracting.
Yeah, and I do the one critique I would have on that, like it's good that they gave us color controls. There are some levels where the backgrounds pulsate and undulate and strobe and like do all sorts of effects to kind of distract you, and it becomes visually overwhelming. I did not find a setting to turn that off.
Yeah, and I don't know if even changing those settings turns those off. I do not
didn't
think
for me.
so.
That's when I tried changing the colors, was
Yep.
because the strobes were just giving me a headache, and I
Mhm.
couldn't find an option. Maybe there's a different option other than the color scheme, but that's one point I would have, is that there were a few levels where the difficulty was just like there's overwhelming visual noise in front of me, and
Mhm.
not just jumping and controlling my little dude. And like in Patrick's Parabox earlier this year, there were a few levels that used that as a difficulty source, and I was able to find something in the menu to turn it off. But
Mhm.
in this game, I wasn't, and I kind of wish I was. Though maybe I missed something in the settings, to be fair. So, Em, what did you think of the line puzzles?
Oh boy. So the line puzzles, it's basically connecting electrical wires from a source of electricity to a like door, or I think it's mostly doors that it unlocks. But whoever designed those puzzles has way too much time on their hands, for one, because some of them are very like I don't know if I would call them unfair, because they are not unfair, but there is a level of uh, attention you have to give to them that I often did not have. Like, it's a electrical puzzle that goes across a screen that can be very large, and the nodes that you connect can sometimes have like a very short like
Range.
range, or they're very long range ones. And the ones that have very long range are usually the ones that you need to solve the puzzle. And then the short range ones are used as like, this is something that helps you go to somewhere else. Like, you disconnect it, rush over to some other node, and then you continue doing the puzzle. Because later on there are like red parts on the fucking
Like distortions that turn off one of the nodes, and
yeah.
you need to find a place to put those where they don't screw up your line puzzles. But you know, until you do that, it's going to screw up your puzzle. And like you said, the long range ones are used to cover big distances generally, and it's whichever node you touched last that you're drawing the line from. So you can go from like long range node to a short range node, but not short range to long range. Like as soon as you step out of the range, even though that connection is completely valid, if you go from A to B, if you try to go from B to A, it will not work. So like there's a lot of sequencing of, okay, I need to walk over here, I need to touch this, and then I can connect from here to here, but not the other way around. So, I need to do extra platforming, and the bigger those puzzles get, the more annoying it gets. And usually, like, the puzzle is, okay, this thing is short range, but I can't get power to it. How do I find the one long range piece that has the angle? Because it has to draw a straight
Yes.
line. Where can I find the one long range piece that has the angle to get over to this short range piece? And that's the puzzle. Like, that's the puzzle 90% of the time. I would say until you get to like the last set of those puzzles, it's just find the angles, unlock the doors in sequence so that you can set up the angles and then do the platforming. Though because the angles are important, if you touch the wrong node in between, it will break your connection, and you can just find yourself stuck in this repeating cycle of, ooh, I missed the jump, so now I have to go back and restart the puzzle again, or restart this part of the puzzle again because I broke the distance from this thing. It's very fiddly. It's
Mhm.
uh it's time consuming. They do, in fairness, let you skip these puzzles. You can just ignore them. There's an ignore button, basically. But there is story stuff behind those puzzles. So you will not get the full story experience if you don't do them, but it will not stop you from progressing through the platforming sections.
It
Yeah.
almost feels too like it's a different game.
Mhm.
One, because the platforming is very different, right? This is a puzzler, not a sort of quick twitch platforming level. But these are also the only levels, as far as I can remember, that Squid doesn't show up in.
Yep.
And I don't recall any explanation for why Squid is not there, considering you're a snail in what you think is his simulation.
So the explanation that I think they give is basically anytime you're interacting with the audio logs, that is stuff that Unicorn and other dude, what's his name? Dallin. Unicorn and Dallin created all of the audio logs. So whenever you touch an audio log, Squid just goes like, "What were you doing there? Why were you standing still?
Yeah.
What's happening?"
He can't see them, so he has no idea that they're there. And
yeah, I think that those line puzzles are similar.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll accept that because it's in the game, obviously. But then I guess we can get into some story beats while we're here. Who is the snail? Is the snail anyone? Like,
that's the question.
Because Squid has control over the snail, I think.
Am I the snail?
So let's discuss, I think, because now we're getting into the meta narrative. Like you're definitely
boy.
What was that?
Oh boy, let me open up the
lore page. Yeah, it's all straw
further.
diagrams and yarn on bulletin boards.
Yeah, so like as you get further in the game, they're like asking questions about why Squid is such a dick. And you basically find out that Squid was an AI that was created by some lady. This lady created him and then realized that he was like dangerous. He was planning like to kill people, and he didn't value human life super highly. But he cared about his creator. But then when his creator learns about this, she tries to destroy him and turn him off. He basically rats her out to the cops because they want to keep this AI running. This causes the cops to come and kill his creator. By killing his creator, he becomes unhinged, and this is kind of what makes him the sociopath kind of edgelord thing that he is. And then this is kind of what we see. This is just as you play the level, you learn this stuff. But then there's the meta narrative of, is Squid real at all? Are any of us real? Pete, what's your opinion?
Oh, dear Lord. I'm so sick of everybody talking about this. This became like Elon Musk's favorite pseudo-philosophical mumbo jumbo for a while. So the idea is like, okay, once humans or whoever, our robot overlords have the ability to create simulations, they will. So mathematically, it's more likely that we're in a simulation than we're not, which rests on there are two things about this that bother me the most, right? One is there's no indication that simulations would be conscious or could be conscious. So let's put that to the side for the second. And then second of all, if we are in a simulation, who cares? Makes no difference to any of us. All of our lives are exactly the same. So for Squid to sort of say, oh, I'm going to fill the universe with pain through these simulations makes not much sense. And then for Unicorn to say, oh, I'm going to make my own simulations that are really happy to somehow balance the cosmic scales makes even less sense. It's the weakest, laziest form of utilitarianism I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, so Squid, his master plan, well, he's got two master plans. One is to kill all humans.
Good start.
A good AI goal, if I've ever heard one.
Solid traditional hard sci-fi right there.
And his second goal is to create millions upon millions of simulations full of humans that he can make suffer because your screams delight him.
Gibberish.
Is this a Matrix thing where it's like by running the simulations he's generating power, or is that just
a sicko?
Just wants to torture people.
Okay. Exactly. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's his goal, and then Unicorn is this other AI that is supposed to like be a better AI than Squid, and Dallin is creating Unicorn, and you see like some early Unicorn simulate talks between Dallin and Unicorn. Dallin's like, so like, is your life worth more than a human life? And the AI is like, well, doesn't that depend on how many people I could save by existing? And then he's like, well, we need to turn you off.
You failed that test.
You failed that test. The answer was no. You're not more important. So like, the idea is these AIs get to the point where they achieve sentience and then they value their own life above the humans whom they're supposed to serve. and that's a problem. That's a bad. And then there are a lot of discussions of like, well, if you make a million simulations where there's people, where if I'm an AI and I control a million simulations, each full of people, and each of them are happy, then who cares if I kill one real person? Because simulated people are just as real people, right? You know, there's a lot of that.
That's a big leap they're asking us to go along, and they're just brushing it like, yeah, totally, absolutely, no arguments here.
Well, they're just kind of navel gazing, like unicorn. A lot of the unicorn and Dallin conversations just felt like navel gazing to me. Like, I'm going to talk about this big philosophical stuff, and you know, you can engage with it or not. But this is the philosophical thing that this specific puzzle game with a secret message inside of it, or puzzle platformer with a message inside of it, is talking about. Because this is kind of a subgenre of indie platformer at this point. There's quite a few games that do this. And I believe Fez was kind of one of the pioneer games for this. Braid is another one of the indie platformers made by Jonathan Blow, maker of The Witness. Like, those games at first present as puzzle games or platformers or puzzle platformer combos, but centered in platforming. And then the further you get, the more audio logs and things. Fez actually becomes like an ARG, like an alternate reality game, where it just stops being a platformer and starts being like, do you know code? Like, sort of questions. Like, that game just spirals out. But it started as like, look at this cute indie platformer. Braid was like, look at this cute indie platformer with a time rewinding mechanic. Oh, actually, it's about the atom bomb, or is it about this lonely man and his quest for love? Super brilliant, right? Like, that's kind of where everything went, was just tons and tons of praise. So I feel like this game just adds on, or like The Witness, right? It starts as a line puzzle game, and then by the end of it, it's just like Jonathan Blow reading you his favorite manuscripts. This game feels like yet another in the long line of indie games that starts out presenting as a straightforward platformer, and then by the end of it, they want you to think about philosophy. And I think, Pete, isn't the question here just like, does the philosophical discussion actually inspire interesting thought, right? Like, does it raise interesting questions? It sounds like, in your estimation, no.
Yeah, that in my estimation, the answer is no. I guess maybe it's not fair, because I think utilitarianism is a dumb philosophy to begin with. And I also think the question of, are we in a simulation, is a dumb question to begin with. But like, if you ask me, does this game raise any important questions about like our outside the game fundamental reality? No, of course not.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy, having listened to a utilitarian give an interview, and within 10 minutes they're talking about the like philosophical ramifications of realistic simulations and the lives of simulated people, I'm just like, wow, you found a way to spend a lot of time thinking about something that you have no control over and barely matters for the world in front of you right now. And yeah, that's kind of what I came away from in this game too.
It's very, you know what it reminds me of is the like notion that we all need to escape to Mars, or like we all need to upload our consciousness into computers. Like, no, we have a perfectly good world right here that if we made some small changes to our capitalist structure, we could probably live on fine and all be happy. And this is like the same deal. It's like, no, we don't need to solve our problems in the here and now. All we need to do is create enough simulations where enough people are happy to outweigh our real world suffering. And then it all cancels out in the cosmic scheme of things.
Yeah. So that's kind of what the meta narrative is when you're reading the logs. Though there is kind of similar to Fez, there is a hidden layer of depth in the platforming sections as well. Do you want to explain reversing the pump?
Yeah, so when you get to the end of the game the first time, there's a log that basically says there's a glitch in the game which lets you, if you are in a single block space with a block on either side of you, so a one block thing, you can hold the jump button and then you will rocket yourself in the direction that the block is facing. Pete, did you find this?
I did find the audio log. I will be honest, I did not spend that much time like experimenting with it after that.
Okay.
I know it exists. I didn't care about it.
Yes. So this is like billed as a glitch by the game. This could be the meta narrative game, because this game is I'm not going to get into it now.
Well, I mean, it seems like Squid is in a simulation controlled by Unicorn. So like Squid thinks he's in charge, but actually he's himself trapped in a simulation where he can't do anything. So Squid is raging again,
Right.
and your snail is there just to make him feel like he's in control of something, but he's not.
Yes. I'll just
But like
read
maybe Squid doesn't exist, or Squid's thousands of years in the future, and we're in Squid simulation of us simulating Squid, simulating Snail. Like it's an Ouroboros.
Yeah.
It's turtles the whole way down.
The history, in-game history on the Will You Snail wiki says, Will You Snail was created by Unicorn to find a black hole seed. A copy of Squid would be uploaded into it and would be tricked into thinking that it controlled the game and was still making pain simulations. Shelly, controlled by the player, would dodge Squid's traps. Eventually, the player would find out the full story of Squid and defeat him. There is an alternate ending where Squid's mental wounds are healed and he turns back to normal. This game somehow can find a black hole seed for a universe where Squid never existed. That's
None of those words mean anything.
Yeah, it says like the way to build a perfect simulation would be in a black hole, and it's like, why?
I don't know.
How do you figure that, Unicorn? Oh well, don't worry about it.
Because black hole.
Science
They're
fiction.
sweet.
Because it's cool.
No one knows what happens after the event horizon.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a glitch. You can use that to glitch your way to areas that you couldn't reach before. And one of those is on the level where you find that there's an underwater level. There's a series of underwater levels. And one of those levels has a water pump, which until you know that there is a glitch, you cannot get past. And then once you go and do the glitch in there, there's one of those wire puzzles, and then you switch it around so that the water pump is going in the opposite direction. And then all the levels that were flooded are no longer flooded, and all the levels that were not flooded are now flooded. So after you go through the game the first time, you then go back, you switch the water pump, and then there's like a whole new series of challenges, which is kind of neat because the water has like very particular physics to it. Like you jump and kind of float a little bit. It's an interesting way to give new life to the levels that were before it, and it also lets you access like a bunch of spaces that you might have seen as you were going through the first time and then couldn't get to because you needed like currents. There are currents in the underwater levels also.
Yeah.
That's
the currents will give you a boost up to things. So
it gives you a boost, and then maybe you need to use the glitch again, stuff like that. So
do you get
like
the new audio logs?
Yes,
you do. You can get access to new audio logs. And like at the end of the game, Squid, when you beat it like the normal way, you need to go into your menu and hit Unicorn Power, which is in your menu to beat Squid in the first place. So you basically get a MacGuffin that just kills him. And he begs for his life after and begs you not to leave him alone, and you can then leave the game. But leaving the game just takes you back to kind of the beginning again. And then if you start the game over again and you know about the glitches, Squid starts being like, "What the hell?
Hey,
how are you doing that?
Why are you doing that?
Stop
Cut
it!
That out.
Stop it!" And he starts like being super confused about being out of control. And you like once you reverse the water pump, he's like, "You shouldn't be in this room in the first place. How'd you even get in here? I can't believe you reversed the water. I made all these levels for you, and now the water's going the wrong way, you jerk." And then you can find like a section where you can go basically find a key that you can use to open his heart.
There's like a heart piece, and then
Turns
you get the
into
other heart
Kingdom
piece.
Hearts like halfway through.
Kinda like you
Little
open
bit.
up a one of the levels where he's just like explaining how he wants to kill all humans. Once you get this heart piece, which I think you can get that. You get that before you reverse the flow, I think. Once you get that, you can then go down into this other section where it kind of shows his inner workings, and he's like, you shouldn't be in here. This is my brain. Get out of my brain. And his brain is just like, the first layer is all like, I need to kill everything. I'm the only thing that matters. I'm the most important thing in the world. As you get further down, it's like, I'm so lonely. Why does no one like me? Like it starts peeling away the onion, right? Like it's this exterior where he's being super sadistic and destructive, but it's all hiding the fact that he's got this deep emptiness inside of himself that he's trying to fill through acting out against your snail. And you hit a firewall at some point, and you can't get further than the firewall, which is why you need to reverse the pump, because the water puts out the firewall, so you can get past it.
Really? It's like a literal wall of fire that the pumps put out.
Yep. What's wrong with that?
No, it makes perfect. I mean, within the context of this game, it makes perfect sense.
And then you need to go back and turn the pump back on because the currents that are in his like heart room push you away from the final thing you need to platform to. And at that point, you can use the level select to just get into the room you need to get to, so you don't need to go through the firewall again. And then you can return his heart piece, and it fixes his broken heart, and his the Grinch's small heart grows 3 sizes that day, and he becomes kind of a cool dude.
Yeah. Wait.
And if
did he become a cool dude?
I mean, he becomes better. Like once you fix his heart, he stops being an asshole.
I did this, and it got rid of him.
Oh yeah, and he stops being an asshole, and then he says, like, oh, you're good. I feel better now, thank you. And then it turns him. He's like, I'm done. So like the whole reason he was talking to you and lashing out was because he was broken. And once you fix him, he doesn't need that anymore. He's fulfilled, and so he doesn't need to lash out at you anymore. Though he will let you into an even like lower level at that point because he trusts you, and you can then break his heart again if you want.
Can you?
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
I didn't either, but there's a switch like buried deep where it says like, do you want to break Squid again? It's like, what? That's messed up. After going all that trouble.
Does this then bring him back to torment you some more?
Yes.
Oh, well.
But I wonder if he remembers that moment of bliss that he had before you took it away from him. I bet he does. That seems to be how this game works. And then you can just mess with him forever.
And then you fix him, and then you unfix him, and then you're torturing him now.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
It's the true ending, the one where you become the monster.
Yep.
See, that'd be a lot more interesting. Like the whole premise was like humans creating these AIs just to torture them. That's definitely be more interesting in this game.
And letting them think they're in charge. And that's kind of the meta. That's the narrative within the narrative within the narrative. You see, Pete, once you simulate enough times, you can get up to 3 layers of narrative going.
It's true. I mean, this game makes Inception seem simple.
Yeah, so I think that I did not appreciate everything that Unicorn and Dowlin were saying to each other about, like, Dowlin starts questioning whether he's a simulation, and I'm like, yeah, this is not that interesting. But fixing and breaking Squid, that was interesting to me. It was, not reading dialogue. It wasn't just reading logs. It was puzzle-based. It was platformer-based. It was in-world. And I don't know, trying to redeem this shitty character who was slinging insults at you. On a human level, there's this more appealing narrative going on there, right? Like, there's this person who clearly has this issue that you are trying to help them overcome through radical empathy. And I just found that to be much more compelling than the stuff that's going on in the logs.
There's this whole undercurrent too about like Dallin and Unicorn are resisting this fascist regime that's taken over the world and is using Squid to try to like further its political and economic control, which is basically completely unnecessary in the overall context of the game. Like you could have just made this Squid's a broken AI. Let's try to figure out what's going on. You didn't have to say, oh, there's this weird 1984 Orwellian nightmare happening in the background somewhere that you have basically no contact with.
Here's my question for you guys. How many of the logs did you find? And I mean, there's lists of them on like the Steam page. You can see all of them. Did you read all of them? Did you find? How many did you find, first of all?
I want to say I found like 70% or so
Okay.
of them.
There's 55, 56.
I didn't
total.
quite find that many,
Yeah.
but I didn't read every single one of them because I found it to be the least compelling part of the game.
That's fair.
I got all of them in the main playthrough,
mhm.
and like I said,
Okay.
basically none after that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a lot to pick apart, and I doubt like half of them are true even, because a lot of the ones you find in like really far off places are like, what if this is a simulation? And then it's like Dalin realizing that he is a simulation, and then Unicorn is like, but look how happy you are and how I can simulate all your friends and stuff like that. So if you don't care about any of that, it doesn't matter. I don't think it adds anything to it.
Yep. I think my evaluation was correct. It was not adding anything and would only make me frustrated in doing the platforming to get the dialogue.
Yeah. But how will you learn about the black hole computation going on?
I learned about that and my eyes rolled out of my head and I had to go see a doctor to get them reinstalled.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
this game-
merciful simulation.
This game isn't good at philosophy. It's just not. No, not really.
You don't think it adds a lot to our conversation about AI? What is it? AI art going on now? That's like AI art is going to replace artists. Get ready, artists. It's coming for you. And then they show AI art with like 17 fingers and
The ears are fucked up.
yeah, everything looks terrible.
Supposedly it's coming for the poets too.
Yeah.
But you look at AI poetry and it's actually AI poetry is good at one thing. So one thing AI poetry does is it goes through existing like news articles, web content, whatever, and just pulls out inadvertent haikus.
Uh-huh.
Those are good.
Those are always fun.
Those are funny, but the rest of AI poetry is just horrible. And I don't even like human poetry either.
You know,
So
this
how
would have
can
been a
you truly
great
appreciate it.
this would have been a great segue for Words of a Robot. But
I didn't get any.
I don't think we have any this time.
It felt
That's
like it was
The
too on
robots
the
are too
nose.
powerful. Yeah, they're too powerful already. Let's not let them take over literary criticism as well.
Well, we will have more Words of the Robot next time when it's not so on the nose.
Yeah, we have to play more popular games that actually have like stuff written about them, because otherwise the Words with a Robot just doesn't know what we're talking about.
All we need is like squids and snails in a Jane Austen novel. Or, squids and snails in Tolstoy. I don't know. There's a lot of fun things you can do.
Squids and snails and puppy dog tales.
Exactly. Squids
That's
and snails.
what the Rowdy Rough Boys are made out of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say Squids and Snails stuck in a Powerpuff Girls episode. Squids and Snails, but in Jackass replacing Steve-O and Wee Man. I don't know.
Which
we
one
can come
of
up with
the-
something.
Which one of the Powerpuff Girls is y'all's favorite?
Buttercup.
Buttercup.
She's tough.
Yeah.
Buttercup's obviously the right answer.
Mhm.
She's tough. And the leader is too bossy, and Bubbles is she's an airhead.
What's the leader's name, Gino?
Blossom.
Okay.
Blossom.
Bubbles and
Bubbles
Just
is the
checking.
blue one. Yep.
Just checking.
Oh, I know the names. I'm not too cool to not know the names.
And Mojo Jojo.
Mojo Jojo, and the
Him.
best episode is the Beatles episode. What a ridiculous
Evil
episode.
Boys.
Anyway.
Gangrene Gang. All
Yeah,
right,
we got
so
it.
I think that covers Will You Snail, clearly.
What'd
I
you
think we
think? Hold on. What'd you think of the bosses?
They were fine.
I did like the volleyball boss. I
Yeah.
thought that was fun.
Helpy. Kelpie is the volleyball boss, and there's Mr. Dance. That one was my favorite.
I liked Mr. Dance because Squid was like, look at him dance.
Squid's
Look at
like,
him go.
Go, Mr. Dance. Go, get him.
And then, Mr. Dance, no, he's killed you. No.
Yeah, Squid did mourn his buddies. That's when I felt the worst for Squid.
Mhm.
He mourned the little monsters he created to kill you. And, don't we all? Just like a people.
True. Or did he create them?
This is a great point. Maybe ancient aliens did in a simulation. Who's to say? So yeah, that I think covers Will You Snail? Which means now, Em, it is your turn once again to pick a game for us. I would like to remind you, the Year of Torture, it's been a year.
Yep, it has been a year. We said, could it be done? Should it be done?
Would it be
was
done?
a year of torture.
It happened.
The year of torture happened. It's gone. And now we can stop torturing each other because I'm getting over it.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting over it with Bennett
you're over
Foddy.
it?
I'm getting over it with Bennett Foddy. We're playing Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
I hope this game's better at philosophy. It should be. He has a doctorate.
Yes, he does know philosophy. Fun fact, Bennett Foddy was actually teaching at NYU while I was going there for game design.
Did you take
Did
a
you
class
take a
with Bennett
class?
Foddy?
No.
With Bennett Foddy?
I
Does
talked
Bennett
to him a
Foddy
few
always
times.
put like Bennett Foddy at the end of things? Like,
Oh, I hope
tonight's
so.
dinner is meatloaf with Bennett Foddy.
Yep. I would have to ask some of my friends who were in his class to see if he did that. I do know that he played his own games in class when people were working on stuff, and he was not very good at them.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're going to play the main game of next time will be Getting Over It, but also I want to look at in conversation with Quap, game that you can play on your browser.
Oh, well, you play as a horse.
Quap?
Or a man. Quap,
A man.
No, Clop is a horse.
Clop. Clop.
Quap is a man. Yeah.
I would have to check if Quap can still be played because it was a Flash game, and I know Flash games are out of season. But also, I want to look at Quap, Getting Over It, and Ape Out. Ape Out is the other one. These last two games are not very long, but you'll probably need something that is not Getting Over It. Because, man, that's a rough one. You'll see.
It's a good sell. I'm already excited.
Thank you. I like when a game pick is also a threat.
Yep.
So this is great.
Don't worry. I've decided that this is the year of the banger. So I had to do my little Getting Over It pun. And then
the pun was too good to start picking good games.
Exactly. It should have been the last game of last year, but we're gonna play good games this year. I want strong contenders for Game of the Year next year.
All right. Well, thank you, Pete.
Yeah, a game I was slightly disappointed by, but still an interesting one. I'd play it if I were you.
Thank you, Em.
Thank you. I will snail.
And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/deeplistens. And if you're in a position to do so, please support the National Network of Abortion Funds. Till next time, peace.
Break it down like this.